Disclaimer: the following episode is a conversation between two friends, so it is subject to loud noises and lots of laughter, so please mind your ears. Now, back to our regularly scheduled episode. Remember this, that very little is needed to make a happy life. Marcus Aurelius. Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Misadventures of a Mind podcast, hosted by me, your clinical child and adolescent psychologist, alias Kalek Nadal. And to be honest, I feel like I don't think I should be saying my name anymore. I feel like at this point you should know who I am. But in the off chance that you don't because you're a new listener, hey, what's up? How's it going? I hope you're okay, and thank you for finding me, this podcast. There's also I guess I want to call it a special announcement, because we're not only found on Spotify and YouTube anymore, we're also on Apple Podcast, we're also on Amazon Music. Now, if you have the application for Amazon Music, I'm not sure if you can find it there, but you can find it on Audible. So if you have a chance, go check it out. You have a large variation, a melting pot of platforms and places where you can find this podcast. So wherever you want to listen to this podcast, go ahead and do that. But anyways, anyhow, today is episode 13, and I'm a horror fan, and this episode usually comes out every other Friday. If you know where I'm going with this, good on you, but if you don't, let me explain it and break it down. I love double entendres, I love little Easter eggs, so I feel like today is a very special episode because it's kind of like a Friday the 13th vibe, but also I have another special guest. I feel like you guys have been blessed truthfully with guest after guest after guest, but I know for a fact that this one is gonna be a good one. But before I get into who it is, what we're gonna talk about, and where this conversation is gonna go, I need to also let you know that you need to do better. Do better by this podcast, because I know you listen and I know that you enjoy it. However, do you really enjoy it? Because if you did, and if you do want to support this podcast, you should hit the subscribe button on YouTube. You should hit the follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible. And also, you should hit the follow button on Instagram. Share it with your friends, share it with your family. You know how we like to do. We like to discuss, we like to talk about topics, about life, about growing up, about how tough it is to deal with growing up and also mental health. And that is what this podcast is about. It's not just a podcast talking about our sad days or our struggle days. We also talk about some fun stuff. However, today that's not going to be that day. We're going to talk about some deep stuff. We're going to talk about some things that may or may not trigger you. So, trigger warning. With that being said, the misadventure of the mind of this episode is one that convinces you that happily ever after doesn't exist. I'm going to repeat it. It's a misadventure of the mind that convinces you that happily ever after doesn't exist. Now, like I said, today's episode, it's gonna be a good one. I know I say it every single episode, but truthfully, have I ever been wrong? And if I have been, please let me know. We can grow together. And today, I have I think perfect person to talk about this topic with. If you didn't guess what the topic was as yet, per the title, per the MOTM of this episode, we're going to talk about happiness. What does it mean to be happy? Does happiness even exist? I know. Consider your edges pre-snatched. But without further ado, my special guest of today is none other than my little brother. Woo!
Hello. Hi, guys. I am the clinical child and psychologist, adolescent psychologist brother, little brother Ishaq. Nice to meet you. Hope y'all having a great day. I live in Canada and I study marine biology. I am in my second year. So, yeah. Hi. Nice to meet you guys.
This is obviously not what we're talking about, but like, how does it feel living in Canada? And I feel like that might be just a podcast episode in and of itself, but like, how
Mm.
does it feel being in Canada, being from Aruba?
Okay, so being from Aruba, if any of you guys know, Aruba is a very small island. Everything is pretty tight knit. Everybody knows everybody. It's not really
Mm,
a city life or anything. It's really just an island life. So moving
mm,
from the Caribbean, an island, a Dutch island, in fact,
mm,
to Canada, French and English, mostly English, but some places they do speak French. Country is literally like city to city, big city, and it's just a whole different type of vibe. I don't know if like Ali has ever told y'all, but we do be traveling a lot and we have seen a lot of places and a lot of cities
oh,
and
we
everything.
have. No facts.
So for me, the city life wasn't really like the shock. Mostly the shock was, I'd say, for like school, because going from like Dutch
Mm,
school systems to America's
facts.
school system is a lot more difficult. It's a lot like more English than what
Mm,
I'm already used to. So
mm.
yeah, I would say that was the only challenge. But for the rest, like living here and inflation need to stop inflating because it's enough. Brother,
It's ghetto.
brother, it's enough.
Like I said, like that could be like a conversation for another day. Cause
Sure.
today I feel like the topic could be very interesting, but it also could stir up discussion.
Yeah.
And I do want to give us enough time to really delve deep into like the topic that we have today at least.
Hmm.
Because I mean, yeah, I am a psychologist. So I was also kind of contemplating and trying to see if because I'm a psychologist, I have a different way of seeing it,
Hmm.
or do I have like two kind of perspectives on it, I guess.
Okay, there's a question for
Hmm.
you. As a
Okay.
psychologist, do you find it like hard to separate what you like objectively kind of know within your studies to like your actual emotional human state? So like, the things you should know and should know how to deal with and the things you've
Hmm.
already studied compared to like, oh,
Hmm.
I'm actually feeling this way about it though. So it's like I
Hmm.
can give my emotional kind of answer for
Hmm.
like let's say happiness, but I can also give my
Hmm.
professional
Professional. Right.
degree, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know.
That's a good question. If you didn't listen to the episode 11, me and my friend Zoe, we talked about what it's like being a psychologist. Sometimes I do have a switch where it's like I can give the answer as Aliaska the person,
Hmm.
or I can give the answer as Aliaska the psychologist who is professional.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There are two different things because like you said, we grow up in Aruba as a Caribbean. There's a different way of life that kind of shaped the way how I think, but
Hmm.
also it doesn't, I guess, clash too much or all the time, at least with Aliaska the professional.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Before we get into discussing what happiness is, etc., and our stance on it,
Hmm.
you know how we like to do it. We always have to define the terms. So, as per always,
Hmm.
we have to hit up the good friend, Ishak.
Hmm.
Wow, my brother is just clearly he's not a loyal listener and I feel personally attacked, but it's okay. We're gonna hit up the friend Merriam Webster and define what happiness is. And as per Merriam Webster,
Hmm.
happiness is defined as a state of well being and contentment, or in other words, joy, a pleasurable or satisfying experience. Now, when I read this, I thought, like, okay, that's very straightforward. There's not much to question or criticize. But me being me, I was like, okay, is this it? Is this all you have to offer me? So I had to dig a little deeper and I also looked up what it meant to have or be in a state of well being. And as per Merriam Webster, once again, a state of well being, the noun, is defined as, which is really funny, state of being happy, healthy, or prosperous.
Mm.
And it's like, okay, well being and happiness can be interchangeable. But
Yeah.
in this case, well being is comprised of not just happiness or joy, but
Mm.
also health and also prosperity. And
Mm.
healthy can be physical health. But of course, as a psychologist, I don't always only focus on the physical health because there's the emotional and also mental health that is really important, and
Mm.
also prosperity. So, prosperity is defined as the condition of being successful or thriving. So, in this case, your well being is not just you being able to feel the emotion, happiness, or joy,
Mm.
but it also is defined by how healthy you feel you are,
Mm.
but also how successful you feel you are. I just had to think back on that quote as well, because Marcus Aurelius, he was actually a Stoic. And
Mm.
if you don't know what a Stoic is, that is a person who literally believes in the philosophy of being happy in very simple terms. And who was he? You're probably wondering. And don't worry, I have the answer as I usually do. He was a former Roman emperor, and he had this philosophy that encouraged people to live a life that brought them happiness or joy. And the philosophy of Stoicism teaches the development of self control as a means of overcoming destructive emotions. And so, the philosophy holds that becoming a clear and unbiased thinker allows one to understand the universal reason. So, in other words, kind of helps you navigate through life when life throws you in a character development arc, when life be life in, when life makes you feel like you shouldn't be happy.
True.
What are your thoughts on that?
So it was basically saying with not how healthy you are, but also how successful.
Mm-hmm.
On the healthy part is like, for me personally, 50-50, I guess. Because it's like when someone know they're not healthy. Like, okay, by the way, guys, just so you know, this is a warning from now. I'm a very unserious person, okay? So does it sound crazy?
Truthfully.
Don't mind too much. But anyways, okay, let me say someone is unhealthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's always that one thing that brings them happiness. So they know they're
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy, but they also
Mm-hmm.
getting happiness anyway. So I would say for that fact is like the healthiness aspect of it all is just not really a thing, I guess. Like let's
Mm-hmm.
say you're unhealthily like obese.
Okay. Right, right.
Uh-huh. Like you know you're unhealthily obese, but
Mm-hmm.
the happiness that you get from eating that food is so much different. Like once
Right.
you get that food in your system, you're like, oh yeah, this is bliss. This is
This
happiness
is
right
what I
now.
need.
But then right
Right.
after, or when I guess the reality hits, you're like, oh, I'm still unhealthy. But
Mm-hmm.
that snack was hitting though. That burger was burgering, okay?
Right.
I'm in my state of happiness while I'm eating. This is why it get me to a state of being
Mm.
unhealthy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like for me, like for that definition of being healthy, I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
say it's like physical health. I would probably say it's maybe like
Mm-hmm.
mental wise.
Mm-hmm.
Cause when you say someone is healthy, like
Right.
everybody always like things. Oh, the first thing you can think of is like physical health at some point in your life, like you have to like grow and whatnot. So it's like when we can start talking about your mental health, like when we're going to start being
Right.
like, okay, I'm healthy, but mental wise,
Mm-hmm.
not. And the other
Mm-hmm.
part was, what other part was again?
And
And
prosperity, successful.
I was successful.
Wait, before you get into that though,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like you said something really interesting and I have a rebuttal.
Okay, good.
Because let's keep the same example and the analogy that you have, right? So you know that you're physically unhealthy because medically you're obese, right?
Yeah.
And the satisfaction and the pure joy that you get from, let's say, that greasy meat sandwich, or I mean, if you're vegetarian, the greasy, very fatty meal,
Tofu.
the tofu.
Uh-huh.
What came to mind for me, at least, is that is it then worth it to be happy for the 5 seconds compared to the lifestyle of unhappiness that you're going to lead after? Because you being unhealthy is because of the choices that you made. And I feel like a lot of times people can get trapped in the temporary success, temporary happiness that they experience, which still leads to a longer and more maybe permanent period of unhappiness or unhealthy habits.
Okay, I have a rebuttal for that. Okay, so
Okay.
then why does momentary happiness feel much better than
Mm,
thinking on how happy I
mm,
will get when I reach to the
mm,
future? So it's like
mm,
it's like one of those living in the moments type things. It's like, okay, I'm
right.
happy right now. This momentary happiness is
Mm,
going to make me feel happy. Okay, I'll worry about the unhappiness that'll come in a minute or like in
right.
whenever this momentary happiness
Mm,
is done. So
mm-hmm,
it's like while I am unhappy waiting to get happy,
mm-hmm,
so I do that instead of having this small little bites of happiness and then
mm-hmm,
oh unhappy, unhappy, unhappy. Like obviously everybody different and everything. So not
mm-hmm,
everyone looks forward to the future or think
mm-hmm.
that ahead to like, oh, I'm gonna get there someday or I'm gonna reach there. So let me
Right.
work towards
Towards
my
that.
life of happiness. I'm happy
Mm-hmm,
right now.
mm-hmm.
And that's what matters is the happiness right now that I'm feeling because I'm gonna be suffering
No, I
from
agree.
here all the way to oh there we go I finally reached my moments of happiness, my life of
Right.
happiness.
Right. It's the same thing like when you get a job and you become a quote unquote real adult.
Hmm.
And like something that you often hear is that you should be saving money. And you have like two types of people in the world, where you have the serial saver who just doesn't go on vacation, doesn't really, buy things and stuff like that. All they do is save money.
Hmm.
And then you have the other one who is kind of like you said, living in the moment and going on vacation. Not that they're bad spending,
Hmm.
but they use their money more so in the moment rather than like putting it away until, I don't know, they have
Until
an X amount of money.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But to go back on what you said, I agree. I feel like living in the moment and experiencing your happiness wherever it may come from
Hmm.
is very important, because I am an avid mindfulness meditator.
Hmm.
So I do believe wholeheartedly in living in the moment. However, I don't believe in living in the moment and being happy and kind of disregarding something that will come eventually. So
Hmm.
you're almost procrastinating the quote unquote period of unhappiness that you'll be feeling. Like you said, if you're working towards something, or you're so focused on the, oh, in a couple of years or a couple of months or whatever, you'll get to the point of happiness, is also very unhealthy,
Hmm.
because then you don't really have a kind of a purpose for living, to be honest. And it sounds kind of very dark,
Not as valid.
but because then it's like, okay, it's like, after you finish school, high school, and
Hmm.
then you go to college, university, whatever, and then you get a job. And then it's like, okay, now I just need to work until I die.
Exactly.
Like, that's not a life personally for me that I want to live.
Hmm.
If that is the choice for you, that is fine. But for me, I do believe in living in the now, living in the present, and, doing things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Because this is also something that I also tell people: money is going to come. Like, I will book that flight. I will buy the food because I'm hungry. I will do whatever, go outside, whatever, do whatever I want because time is number one limited,
Mhm.
and also the money will come back eventually. Like my time won't. I'm getting older, you know, the
Pushing
girl
30.
is pushing 30. Like, I didn't want to say it, but okay, thanks, Ishak. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm pushing 30. Listen, though, I'm pushing 30, but she still looks 20.
Okay. All right.
so,
Valid, valid, valid.
I feel like you can live in the moment and live out your moments of happiness every single day whenever they come,
Hmm.
but you also have to be conscious to not disregard the unhealthy habits. Like,
But yeah, I see where you're coming from. I get it. I understand. Like
mhm.
what you're saying. It's totally valid. It's totally understandable.
But you disagree.
No, not that I disagree. Like I agree with the most points, but it's still like I don't know. Sometimes like your momentary happiness just feels way better than what could be. Cause you don't know like because you're working up to something.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you had to say about okay, you go to school, you graduate, uni, graduate, and then get a job, and then you work until you die, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have a whole lot of debt. That is why, guys, you gotta have debt.
Honestly.
But anyways, so it's like yeah, I agree with that. Like that's not a life that I
Mm-hmm.
would ever want to live.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with that. But it's still like what then? Because that is kind of typically the life that any average person would live, basically, right?
Right.
So like when you were younger, all you wanted was to, oh yeah, I can't wait to be an adult, get a job,
Right.
da da da.
Mm-hmm.
By 25, I'ma be married, da da da, this and that.
Yep.
Bro, I am 23 years old. I am
Life be
still in
life in.
school. Life be life in. Like, yeah, some
Yeah.
people move at their own pace and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is the thing. But also it's like you get a job and then what? That's where the momentary
Yeah.
happiness comes in because it's like, okay, you get a job, you have to pay for some things, you have to pay for your momentary happiness. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
just like it's still you're going to have your small bits of happiness in between. But that
Mm-hmm.
also could like lead to you finding your full on happiness, your happy life that you want to
Mm-hmm.
live.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like sometimes people don't really like get fully happy. They just get comfortable.
Oh, that's a word.
They're just like
Okay, park that, hold that thought
okay, okay,
because
okay.
I do want to come back to that because I don't want to lose track of like the definition or like the term of happiness and being happy because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you also said something, and I do want to ask or rather inquire about it because you mentioned, or I mean, both of us mentioned the fact that after graduating and stuff like that, you have to get a job
Mm-hmm.
because obviously we have bills to pay. You maybe have rent, you have to pay, groceries and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation is a real thing. I'm not sure why it exists, but whatever.
Yeah, well,
And it's like you do have a job, but who's to say that the job that you have
mm-hmm.
that could sustain the life that you want to live is not also something that's fun?
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. That is, yeah, yeah. That is true. Yeah, that's valid. Cause like mostly there's always hears people complain about a job and whatnot, but you
Mm,
always have those people out there that like the people that do be complaining. I would say is the vocal minority, but I wouldn't even say it's a vocal
hmm.
minority because it's like a lot of these jobs suck, bro. It's like you don't
Yeah,
get you don't literally just get a job because you need the money. It's like, bro,
that's
it's a
true.
necessity.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, like there's people that do like actually finish studying and get a job that they've been wanting to get and do find happiness
Hmm.
within their job. So that is something that I do
Yeah.
agree with.
And
Yeah.
I could definitely attest to that because like after I think it was my bachelor,
Hmm.
I had to get a job because I was no longer getting student loan. They
Hmm.
said, "Girl, you're not no longer a student. Get out of our system. Find
Facts.
your own money." And I
Hmm.
was like, "Hold on, wait. You mean I need to do this by myself?" So I had to work a job that, it wasn't really something that I studied or even liked,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to do it
Yep.
because I just need to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is so unfair.
Yes, that's
I need
true.
to suffer, which is just really funny because now I think about a Bible verse. Let me see. It says specifically,
Mm-hmm.
for I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. And anytime I struggle in, I just always think about that verse because it's kind of true.
Yeah, that's
Because I had
true.
to work many, many, many odd jobs that I
Yep.
didn't really like.
Yep.
Not calling any names at all because I don't want no problems. But I had to work many,
Solid
many
lawsuit.
jobs I didn't like. But, the jobs that I do have now, like I really enjoy them.
Yeah.
I feel like they do bring me happiness, even though they bring me stress.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's everything. Like I love my brother, he brings me happiness, but he stresses me out.
I don't know what she talking about, guys. Serious. She lying. Yeah,
And
that's true.
also to that point, the thing that I noticed or picked up on at least is the fact that you or your argument on you having to kind of create and bask in the little happy moments that you have
Mm-hmm.
versus like or while doing other things. So I was just curious, like, do you feel like you have to almost steal your happy moments in order to not lose your mind?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Okay, let me think about it because it's like like what is the happy moment? You understand?
Mhm.
So it's like what does bring you joy? Because sometimes what bringing you
Mhm.
joy and happiness, causes stress too. Okay, like let you say, okay, like let you
Facts.
say, okay, thing I'm just list some things that just bring me joy, right? Like
Mhm. Mhm.
watching content creators, shout out content creators. It is
Mhm.
always let me laugh and whatever. Doing
Mhm.
art, playing basketball. Okay, this is probably like going to like when life takes over and then
Right.
your deeper mental health and whatever. Okay, so
Mhm.
basketball was my lifestyle, right? Bring me so
Mhm.
much happiness, went away, travel, international teams, da da da. Bring me happiness for many, many years of my life. And then
Mhm.
I get to a point in my life where it was just no longer happiness. It was just like,
Work.
not work per se, but it was just like, I don't feel the love from this anymore. Right. So it's
Mhm.
just like, I just feel trash anytime I'm on the court. It's just a
Mhm.
mental strain. It's just like,
Mhm.
nah. But then with art, also art, oh yeah,
Mhm.
you're good at art, this and this. Oh, I could do art, da da da. Like, yeah, I could do it. It does bring me joy and happiness. And then also, I quit that at some point in my life too. But pick it back up, don't.
Mhm.
But still, it had a point in my life where I was just like, yeah, nah, I am garbage at this. I don't know. That's probably a deeper mental health thing. It's probably like depression. I know,
It could
maybe.
be. The point of the podcast is also just to, talk about the deep stuff. Ask yourself the tough questions.
Mm-hmm.
Why, at a certain point or after doing it, after a couple of, I don't know, years, after it bringing you so much joy, you feel like you just stop having love for it. It almost sounds like you question whether or not you're capable of doing it, and that leads to you falling quote unquote out of love with it.
Probably, yeah. It's probably like also like a burnout, maybe. I actually remember the day I quit basketball
Mm-hmm.
fully. It was back in like, it was still back in high school in second. No, this was exam class. And
Mm-hmm.
then I remember had a game. We wasn't playing, but I had game that day. In my
Mm-hmm.
mind, I was like, do I want to go? And then after, I was like, yeah, nah, I'm done. I quit.
Mm-hmm.
Messaged the coach. I was like, hey, yo, I ain't going to game and you could just take me off the team.
You'll never see
I
me
am
again.
done. I am done with
Yeah.
this. I quit in
Mm-hmm.
this. I remember all
Mm-hmm.
my friends was like, yo, I do this, this, and that, and that, and that. My man, I was just like, yeah, I'm busy, da da da. The basic
Mm-hmm.
excuses.
The
But then,
excuse, oh yeah, I don't have time,
yeah, I ain't got
etc.
time. I'm busy, this and that. And
Mm-hmm.
my man, I like, bro, I tired, okay? I tired of this.
Mm-hmm.
This thing ain't bringing me. the same happiness that it was once bringing me.
Mm,
Even though, like, if I probably stick with it, like that way, like we was talking about the same Bible verse that you had say is like, what the
mm-hmm.
Bible verse was again? What is it?
Current sufferings don't compare to the glory that will come.
Okay, yeah, the current suffering, right? The current suffering was just me
Mm-hmm.
being tired of playing and being stuck, basically, or feeling stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
the glory that would have come would have probably been me being like really good in it, like probably
Mm-hmm.
excelling or whatever. Same thing with
Mm-hmm.
art. But it was just like that why for me personally that verse or that mindset is not something that I have
Mm-hmm.
yet or had even because
Mm-hmm.
it's just like, bro, I can't see that far ahead. I can't like I can't
No, but
like
that's honest. I appreciate your honesty.
I can't bro, I suffering now, brother. Like I am, bro.
It's the hair end now.
You want me keep doing this for the probably the next couple of months, right? And I feeling
Okay,
trash.
but look
Like
at
I
this,
gonna be
Ishaq.
on the
Look at
bed.
this.
I gonna be sitting there like, yo, I could just leave right now, please. I don't want to be here. Me
Mm-hmm.
throwing down some art or skateboarding or whatever, anything that used to bring me
Mm-hmm.
happiness, throwing down some art, and
Mm-hmm.
I just looking at this piece like, yo, try to stay on right done. But then later on is like, it's like, but then later on is like, it's like, oh yeah, this was good. Like you were cooking with this,
Right, right,
like
right.
bro. I need that now. Like I don't know if it's I don't know. For me, it's like I can't look that far ahead.
Yeah.
Like when people be
But look at
talking,
this, right?
uh huh,
Listen to your older
uh
sister.
huh,
And this is, like we was talking about, this is Alyeska the person versus Alyeska the professional.
uh huh,
Alyeska the older sister is talking right
uh
now.
huh.
First of all, the fact that you could, how do you say, recognize that and be honest with yourself about it, I feel like that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, right? In every single anime that we've ever watched, they have a arc, right, where they need to grow. This
Yeah,
is your character
character
building arc.
development arc.
You know, you need to go through a type of, I don't know, switch suffering. You have to do that sometimes to build yourself back up.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Rock Lee.
Yeah,
You know this man couldn't fight, right?
he
He
got.
he had to go through it.
He did. He did. He
Be
did.
Rock Lee.
He did. He did. He did.
But also, to that point, being a person that can't see that far, I noticed that a lot of people that I know also struggle, or we have discussions when it comes to like current.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we're feeling now versus this is what we could be feeling like a couple of months from now or a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
being the person that lives in the here and now predominantly is completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it also makes sense why, you would look at a thing
Mm-hmm.
and say, like, how about no? How about I throw you in the trash and never look at you again? Sketchbook, skateboard, basketball, all of the things. And then just move on, And I feel like that's completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
And also, this is just like a big sister moment as well. Because obviously, we used to do art together.
Yeah.
And then I obviously noticed as well when you stopped doing the art.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I gifted you the tablet and then I see the type of art that you was taking out, I was like, look at my little brother go. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah. No, no. Once I
And
start
yes, it
picking it
takes
back
a
up, it
really
was like,
long time. Yeah, it takes a long time to just have the things done. For
yeah,
it to be a concept and then have it as a complete production, it just takes a long time.
yeah. That was
I
always
feel
like, oh yeah,
like,
trust the process, trust the process.
yeah, I mean, if it takes a year, if listen to me, as Beyonce said, she's been working on Renaissance and Cowboy Carter for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You could work on Soul Eater, all of the other things as well for like a year. It's
Yeah.
okay. 10 years if you must.
Okay, no.
But you also have to feel that happiness. And if you don't feel it, then you could find it somewhere else. And I think that that's really fine. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But question for you, my
Mm-hmm.
loyal listener. Do you know where your happiness comes from? Do you feel like sometimes you get stuck in not feeling happy with a thing that they're bringing happiness, and then you feel like you're in an endless loop of being happy, then being unhappy, then being happy again, and you're not really sure how to be consistently happy? Who knows? Maybe consistently happy is not even a thing.
It's not a thing. It's fake.
I personally agree.
It don't
But
matter.
that also makes me think about the question of what does happiness mean to you? Because you said that a consistent feeling of happiness for you, you don't really believe in, or it doesn't really exist for you. So, what for you is happiness? What do you feel like happiness consists of? And do you feel like it is a real thing?
Okay, so for me, this will probably contradict myself maybe, but I
Mm,
feel like there's a more likelihood chance of a constant feeling of unhappiness than a constant
mm,
feeling of happiness. That might be contradictory because it's like if you could feel a constant state of unhappiness, then you could for sure feel a constant state of happiness. Like, come on now. Like, there's probably people
okay.
out there that just delusional enough to just be like, oh, I don't care. Life gonna keep going and I'm just
Facts.
happy. Like, life
Facts.
just,
Facts.
I'm just good. Doesn't
Life gonna
matter.
keep going, and so will I.
Yep. But that is not me. So for me, it's like I've always had this thing in my life that is just like I want to have fun with everything,
Mm,
right? So it's
mm,
like for me, happiness is kind of like having fun, but like having fun in different ways, you know? It's like, oh, like if I around my friends, that's
mhm.
me being happy because it's like I ain't got to think on nothing. Like I'm a
Right.
very heavy overthinker. Just
Mhm.
a fun fact with Ishaq. I'm a very heavy overthinker. I just overthink
No
a
way. We
lot of
see you.
things. Yeah, sometimes it's a problem. But then like let's say I'm out with my friends and I don't got to worry about anything or think on whatever bothering me or
Mhm.
whatever a saying is not this and that, blah
Mhm.
blah blah. It's just constantly like, oh, I feel good in this moment. That for me
Right.
is like happiness. Like when it snapped me out of reality, basically, is
Mm.
when I'm in just a state of
It
like
sounds like a
head
state of
empty,
freedom.
basically. Yeah, a state of freedom.
Mm.
It's just like head empty. Like me
Mhm.
not being in my head. Like music is probably my only constant state of happiness. Is it had a
Mhm.
moment in my life where I ever was like, oh yeah, I done with music. If I don't
Right.
have music, I am not going to function throughout the day. Like
Mm.
in back in high school, right? Not even back in high school, pre-high school even. For my Dutch listeners, back in like Marvel, everybody that knows me knows I always have in headphones. Anywhere I go, all the headphones is in my ears. Everybody know I always listen to music. I literally get to a
Mm.
point where my headphones stop working. Either I lose my headphones
Mhm.
or they just stop working. And I ain't had headphones for a minute. And I just used to be out here asking my friends, hey, you got headphones? Hey, yo, you got headphones? Hey, yo, let me headphones. Hey, yo. Hey, yo, give me headphones. So it's just like, bro, I need that thing to function. But yeah, so like
Right.
music is something that would actually genuinely bring happiness because it's just taking you out of
Mhm.
like anything that you're going
It
on
just
within
puts
your
you in your
mind.
zone.
Yeah, exactly. It'll just make you
Mm.
tighten up. It does make you tee up. It does make you focus. It does make you
Mm.
what did I say in the game? To lock in. It does make you lock
Lock
in.
in.
So like
Mm.
that's also what happiness is to me. It's like
Mm.
when I don't have to worry about nothing. When life actually feel like life. When in that
Mm.
moment I actually feel like I live in or I'm in the moment now.
Right.
Instead of
Right.
like when I thinking about everything, I overthinking this and that, having anxiety for this
Mm.
and that, or about
Mm.
this moment and that moment. So it's just like,
Mm.
that I would say is like
Okay,
happiness for
so
me.
I have a tough question.
Uh-huh.
So you're saying like happiness for you is experiencing these moments of basically mental clarity and freedom and stuff like that, right? So what is preventing you from, and you're not allowed to say life
Okay.
because that is a cop out answer.
Okay.
What is preventing you from raising the happiness meter to make it not necessarily 50-50, but at least from 25/30 to like a solid 40?
Okay. Since the answer cannot be life, I'ma just say
Mm-hmm.
circumstance. The point of the circumstance.
That's sir.
Nah, lie, I'm playing, I'm playing, I'm playing. Literally, like, I would just say myself. Like, majority of it is probably just me, but for the rest, it's just like literally people sometimes, or just like I said, circumstances. Like like the answer would still be life, because it's just like life
Life,
just throwing things at you,
but
like
it's
things
just
things just be
yeah.
happening, and it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
why?
Why?
But to
Yeah.
like go deeper in the point of myself, it would probably just be
Mm-hmm.
literally like mental health issues, pretty much, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Can be mindset.
terrible mindset because of mentally ill.
Honestly relatable. As like not just me as a psychologist, but I feel like me as a person, highly convinced, and I feel like it's probably because I'm a psychologist, but highly convinced that everybody in the world just mentally ill, just have like a different either way of expressing it or have like different levels. You know, how is like a spectrum with like
Autism.
autism,
Mm-hmm.
there's also a spectrum of mental illness, mental disorder. But again, that's a conversation for another day.
Mm-hmm.
But we appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability on what happiness means to you.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a
Okay, now I
question.
have a question for you. Okay, so my question was the same question that you asked me, but for you, towards you. So, what is happiness for you, basically?
You know, I had a struggle with that question. Cause I feel like you know what? I can say that I believe in happiness. I don't believe in okay, hear me out.
Mm-hmm. I
Because it
hear you
could
out.
get very complicated.
Now listening.
Because the way how my brain works, it works like a network that is just connected to everything
Mm-hmm.
and also nothing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be a little confusing to keep up with my train of thought.
Yeah.
Again, let me break it down. I feel like the concept of happiness
Mm-hmm.
is something that is fake, but more so in the sense that like it's a social construct. And when I was reading the definition on Merriam-Webster, when it said that happiness is a state of well-being, that is something I do agree with. Well-being being comprised of like happiness, which is joy, the feeling,
Yeah.
success, prosperity, and also health. I understand why each of those elements together would be considered a great way to define well being or happiness. But I feel like there's so much social pressure in being happy that it makes people unhappy. Like there's such a like it sounds really crazy, but it's really ironic because the more you strive to be happy,
The more
I feel
unhappy you
like
can get.
leans to you being or becoming unhappy. If you're striving to constantly feel joy and happiness and just have a positive emotion all the time,
I agree
it will
100%.
probably, yeah, toch? Like it makes sense because then you're just stuck in the, oh, I need to feel this. I have to feel this because if I don't feel happy or if I'm not showing that I'm happy or well off or successful or whatever, then people are going to look at me a certain way. People are going to judge me a certain way or they're going to deem me depressed or something. I feel like as a person, you're allowed to feel unhappy because how dare you go through life and not be able to feel bad about it?
Yeah,
Me
I like
going
that energy.
through,
Yeah.
me going, this is me entering my villain arc. No, but I feel like how dare I go through like a character building arc without suffering and feeling terrible that I'm suffering?
Agreed.
Like, that's just not fair and also not possible. So I feel like happiness for me is whatever it is I feel it is in the moment. So for me, currently, my happiness comes from, like I said, just being more present in a moment, being more mindful, and also just doing things that I want to do,
Mm.
going to places that I want to go to.
Hell yeah.
Like a couple of days ago, I booked a flight to London. Ask me why? I don't. Do I have the money? Perhaps. Will it come? I hope so. And if it doesn't, well,
Well, we'll
okay.
see, I guess.
You will see.
If you have to walk it, you
But
go
you
walk
know
it. There's
what?
whatever.
Exactly. If I need to swim, listen, I have my swimming diploma. I'll make it there, yes or no? With legs intact or no. To get back to your question, I feel like happiness is ever changing for me. I feel like there's not one thing that I would say brings me happiness. Currently, my state of well being, my state of happiness is also in accepting the fact that I have terrible days and that it's okay for me to feel terrible.
That's a great mindset.
So, yeah, it's not really talked about enough, to be honest. I feel like maybe people should talk about the fact that they're unhappy more.
Yeah, but then it's just like you always have people complaining. G. Okay. So this is a whole tangent, right? This is a whole tangent. You always have those people complaining about like, oh yeah, work today was terrible. I had a terrible day at
Hmm.
work. There's a random person from across the room, Robert, gonna come talk to me, bro. You had no idea. I had to go work 12 hours today in the blazing hot
Hmm.
sun. I
Hmm.
didn't ask you that. You had a terrible day too. Let we dap up and had a terrible day together. Let we feel bad
Let's
together.
let's talk about
Let
it.
we
Like
feel
let me
bad to
vent.
let me feel bad together, Robert. Okay, it's like, bro, like let me say I'm unhappy in peace without you bringing something
Yeah.
up. Cause it's literally I could just bring it back to you. It's like Jessica, you also had unhappy days. Okay, like come
It's like
on
you're
now.
not alone because you're allowed to feel unhappy. Because I feel like being unhappy is also a sign that you're unsatisfied with how life is going. And I feel like that is also a sign that you need a change in your life. Maybe you need to leave. Robert, maybe you should start working inside. How about that? But like I said, I feel like people should just talk about when they're unhappy more. Let me normalize feeling unhappy
Let's normalize
because
unhappiness.
it's let's not normalize unhappiness, but let's normalize talking about it. But you know what's also really funny? And I feel like it's also just the universe trying to tell me something.
What?
2 weeks ago, we solidified the topic for the episode, or maybe last week, I can't remember. And literally, I feel like there were so many signs that were talking about happiness and what it means to be happy. Because look at this, right? Browsing through Instagram randomly, saw this post that says it's like a stop sign, a yellow one, and the sign read, happiness is not a place, it's a state of being. The person who also posted it is also a psychologist, and the caption was like, radical acceptance of self allows you to experience happiness wherever you are. Frequently, I hear people put out a lot of conditions on their happiness. That is, they'll say, I'll be happy once, insert blank here, or I'll be happy when something, something, something.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the thing that I was talking about, where is like we're so hyper focused on trying to create happiness that you lose sight of actually being happy.
Yeah.
You lose sight of the things that actually bring you joy. It just made me think and reflect on, okay, what is happiness to me? And then another sign, while also just randomly on a day after work, eating my food, watching, some TV, like to throw on something cute and fun. So I was looking at Rick and Morty, obviously.
Yeah.
And in season 7, I think it was maybe the last episode, was future Rick talking to present day Rick and Morty. And he was saying, like, the smarter you are, the more you know happiness is a trap. It can't last forever. Let's say you meet the love of your life, well, it's still gonna end.
Damn.
I was like, first of all,
Damn.
how dare you come for my neck at the end of a long work day?
Facts. Stop breaking down one time.
No, literally. I was like, okay, I suppose
Yeah.
you also want to fight.
I feel like that's a great segue into the next point that you have, the one about
Right.
lied about happily ever after. So like the Disney effect, the example I use for Rick and Morty from, yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna end up in a relationship with your wife, but at some point you're feeling happy
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to end. That's like when you
Right.
start the relationship, you're like, oh yeah, nah, we're gonna live forever. We're gonna be happy
Mm-hmm.
forever, happily ever after affair, basically, right? Just like that movie, Happily Ever After.
I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but it had a kind of like a spin off type of cartoon. It was literally, I want to say it's maybe 18 years ago or so that thing was on. So we were really young.
Hmm.
But the name always stuck with me. And it was like,
Happily
it
Never Ever.
was Happily Never After.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
dude.
that thing, I feel like as a kid, I kind of got it, but me now, I get
Mhm.
it even more.
Yeah.
Happily never after. Because it's like, okay, what is happily ever after? The Disney effect, indeed. And
Mhm.
this is also something that we talk about often.
Mhm.
There's always a happy ending,
Yeah.
there's never a real ending.
Yeah, but then when we do get a real ending, it's like, oh, okay. Like, nice. So it's like
Yeah.
happy ending every time. It's just reached to a
Hmm.
point where it's like,
It's
y'all
unrealistic.
doing enough.
You feel like you've believed the concept, or in this case, the lie of happily ever after?
Probably like when I was 10, when I was young, when I was a child, when I was
Mm,
oblivious to the world, maybe. But then when your
mm,
brain clicking is like, oh, life kind of crazy. It's like the more you go on with your life, is the more it's like when you start actually thinking about happiness and what
you
happiness
start
is to you.
realizing,
It's also
yeah.
like a main character effect or like a main character syndrome.
Mm,
Is like not everybody could be a main character in a story, but you kind of could be the main character in your own story.
it's
But
true.
sometimes
That's
even
true.
like that, you just feel like, I am main character in some horror anime or something. Like get me out of here.
This is not what I signed up for. It's giving Harry Potter, where every year my life is on the line.
Facts. It's
Why am I
giving.
11 and fighting for my life?
But yeah, nah.
But yeah.
Like the thought of like a happily ever after is like, what would be your happily ever after? Because it's like in the end, you're going out the same way, you're going to die anyway.
True.
So
That's
would
true.
it be like a happily ever, like not like a after, but like a happily ever or
During.
something? So it's just
Right.
like,
Just being happily.
yeah, so is it like something that you want to look back in your life and be like, oh,
Mm.
I was happy majority of my life.
That's a question for you, listener.
Yeah, so it's
How
like,
happy have you been in your life?
exactly. So it's like not everybody gets to like live up to this point, I guess.
Mm,
Like a lot more recently still having like a lot more people like dying young or,
mm,
taking
getting sick.
taking themselves out and whatever.
I feel like it's kind of like a roller coaster. You got your ups and your downs.
Yeah, how this meme
And
that I like, basically like a chart and it does go up and down. Is basically saying, oh, we're back. Oh, it's over. Oh, we're back again. I lied. Oh, it's over. Ah, nah, I'm cooked. And then it's like, oh, we're so back. Like we're here, we're up here. And then they just go right back down. And like, oh yeah, nah. I just love using that
no,
picture because it's just
accurate.
like,
And I feel like that is the premise of life. All of its joys and also the
yeah,
things that trigger us, to be honest.
yeah. But what you should take from
But
this
yeah,
podcast is be Delulu, be delusional, and you might find your
Delulu is the
happiness, to be
Salulu.
honest.
And even if you don't find it, that's okay. It'll come to you.
Yeah.
But don't be obsessed with trying to find it.
Yeah. Look, bro,
Because,
everybody gonna have those days that you just probably don't feel like doing anything and you're just so unhappy. Just taking those days, you feel me?
yep, just feel your feels.
Mm-hmm.
Just be with them. And I think that concludes the episode for today and the topic.
Nice.
I personally enjoyed it. I also like the fact that, we could get into discussion because we do have different perspectives on things.
Mm-hmm.
And being asked the question back is always like first of all, I'm gonna fight you. I'm the one asking the questions. But nah, like, I do feel like it also helps me reflect on my own stance on things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was great. And I hope that you, the listener, also got something out of it. I hope that you could also reflect on the things that bring you joy, the things that make you happy, but also the things that make you unhappy.
Mhm.
Because that is also a human experience and that shouldn't be taken away from you. But don't forget that you could always pick yourself back up, that you could find the little moments of happiness, even if you need to steal them from yourself.
Yep.
And the consensus, I guess, for today is live happily never after.
Yes, sir. Live happily, never after.
And you know how we like to end each episode with a little affirmation for your day, your week, your weekend, your month, to leave you with a good, happy feeling. And today I'm gonna ask my lovely guest, my little brother, the broski, the twin,
Yes, sir.
to bless us with the affirmation.
All right, today's affirmation goes: happiness can be found in all the little and simple things in my life.
Thank you. And I never forget my Bible readers out there. Today's biblical affirmation can be found in Romans 12:12, and it is as followed: Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Now, I would like to thank you once again, my fellow loyal listeners, for tuning in to episode 13 of the Misadventures of the Mind podcast. I hope that it tickled your brain. It made you think about something in your life or something out of your life. Who knows? Whichever one it is, never forget to just find happiness in the little things or the big things. And you know the drill. If you like this episode, if it sparked something in you, discuss it, talk about it with your friends, with your family, and share it on all things shareable: Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp. We're also available on Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music, aka Audible. So, if you prefer those platforms, you can find me there as well. And of course, we have to thank our special guest, Ishaq Lake, all the way from Canada, tuning in and dropping some quality information and discussion points. And of course, his vulnerability is always appreciated and accepted. And I'd like to inform you on another episode. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Bye.